Welcome to the Oasis State Podcast. Cheers for tuning in. This podcast is dedicated to educating and empowering women to step into their self-love infused power. As a woman, there are so many nuances that influence our relationship with self. Join me as I share my personal experiences with and deep understanding of mindset development, energetics, and self-mastery. I will help you deconstruct societal conditioning and your own outdated beliefs through a lighthearted, playful lens of perception. I will introduce you to tools that will help you redefine your interaction with life, powerfully manifest your wildest dreams, and enjoy every step along the way. Let this podcast guide and support you as you make the commitment to remember your magic within. This is your self-empowerment pep talk. Hello, welcome back to the Oasis State Podcast. My name is Zoe Rose Carey and I am your host. Okay, cool. So I think, actually just going to put my phone on airplane mode. I knew something felt off. Oh man, last time I recorded a podcast episode, I had to record it in four little sections because I kept getting phone calls or interrupted or something. So learning my lesson early on, and phone is on airplane mode and I am completely present with this podcast episode now. Okay, this is podcast episode 13. Ooh, actually, no, I really love the number 13 because I am born on the 13th. So this is actually a lucky omen. Okay, today's episode is being recorded at the end of this year, end of 2022. And this episode is all about tips and hints to help you navigate when you're in a void, when you're feeling lost, when you're feeling like life doesn't really feel as satisfying and enjoyable as it did beforehand. And man, oh man, I've been there so many times in my life, and it is incredibly disorientating and confusing and painful if we don't have the right understanding and tools to help us move through these voids. So this episode today is dedicated to helping you understand and navigate a void if you're in one, if you've been one in the past and it didn't really make sense, or when you inevitably go into one in the future, because there's just no way you're not going to feel lost at some point in your life. So yeah. So as I've mentioned like multiple times throughout these episodes, my views of how we interact with life is that we are co-creating with the universe. So we're definitely in the driver's seat, and we have free will and we have discernment, and we have the ability to identify desires that are in our lives and then take the actions, shift our mindset, and change our energetic signature to move into these new phases or fulfill these desires that come into our lives. But we are co-creating with the universe as well. And the universe will come along at points in your life and start to create situations and scenarios and little things that start getting a little bit under your skin. And you start realizing that your current reality just doesn't feel as nice, as satisfying, as enjoyable as it was beforehand. And I think because our minds are always looking for safety and certainty, and it just completely doesn't like the unknown, of course we start feeling a bit uncomfortable when that feeling of confusion comes along, like, oh, like this job like doesn't really, tick all the boxes for me anymore, or oh, I don't know, this relationship doesn't feel very aligned anymore, or it could be anything. It could be where you live, it could be the freaking hairdresser you're going to, but there are going to be situations brought into your life by the universe, in my opinion, situations brought into your life that will start getting the muddy waters underneath you, just churning a little bit, and really starting to get your mind, body, and soul thinking about, well, where am I at in my life, and what do I like, and is this actually what I want, sort of thing. So I wanted to share some tips and some mindset hacks today to help you navigate these points, these kind of really cool pivotal points in our life, because I think, as I mentioned, our mind loves the known. So as soon as any kind of prospect of the unknown comes in, our minds start to freak out, which turns our nervous system into a dysregulated state. Our emotions are all over the shop because our body and our minds are sensing that unknown. And it's all about shifting our perception about the unknown, because it's not actually anything bad, and it's not actually anything that's going to cause you any harm, which is the messages that your mind is sending you, because your mind and your ego are just trained to keep you safe. So as soon as a change comes along or something unknown and the foreign comes along, your mind, body, and soul, your soul kind of knows what's going on, but we tend to drown out our soul because like our nervous systems and our minds are usually more central to our decision-making process. So yeah, I'll start with the first point, that understanding that when you're feeling lost or you're feeling that you're in the void, this is actually a really encouraging sign, because it means that the universe has acknowledged that it's time for you to grow and expand and move on to a different phase in your life. And so that's why, we're not solely co-creating our lives, because obviously, like, times of growth and expansion are incredibly beneficial for us, incredibly expansive and enlightening. But sorry, excuse me. They're also super fucking uncomfortable too. And it's just like, if we were in the driver's seat of our life all the time, we probably wouldn't choose to move to the edge of our comfort zone and really lean into those icky parts of ourselves. So that's why I'm always like, we are co-creating with the universe, because the universe is bringing these situations and these pivotal points in our lives to which fosters that feeling of, oh my God, I'm in the void. I'm so lost. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. But it's actually just when the universe is kind of sitting into the driver's seat or moving into the passenger seat in your car and being like, all right, come on, we need to change that GPS now and we need to move on to something else. But when you start feeling the start of your void, it doesn't mean like, when you're deep in that confusion, it doesn't mean clarity is going to come from confusion straight away. So yeah, as I mentioned, the first point I want to make about feeling lost and feeling confused is that this actually isn't an indication that you've done anything wrong. It's actually a really encouraging and exciting sign, because it means that it's time for you to grow and expand and call in the necessary change in your life for your soul's greatest evolution and for your humanness to be as happy and fulfilled as it can. And if we are growing and evolving as people, of course, the same situations, interactions, opportunities, relationships, everything are not going to serve us in the right way because we're evolving. So that's my first tip for navigating the void, is to actually shift your perception that you haven't done anything wrong. It's actually a really encouraging and exciting sign. Excuse me. Excuse me. Yeah, so it's an encouraging, exciting sign, and try to soften into the understanding that this feeling of discomfort or feeling that you're in the void is actually a sign of a growing pain. And, pain is usually associated with something negative, but it's a growing pain, meaning that it's time for you to evolve. It's time to call in change. So we need to start shifting our perception that this isn't something we've done wrong. We're not pigeonholed into this void and confusion forever. It's actually an encouraging sign that, oh, my soul's got growing pains now. My mind and body are ready to shift into that next phase of my life. As I mentioned, it's not going to happen overnight, but acknowledging that will help you soften and get the best, most quotation marks, enjoyable experience out of the void, because it can be just completely disorientating. So yeah, but hopefully this episode will help serve as a companion for you in this time, because it doesn't have to feel as disorientating as, previous voids have felt for you before. But that's why I'm so passionate about self-mastery, because if you don't have these tools and understandings, mindset hacks, rituals, and everything to course correct when you come into these voids, they're going to be really, really painful experiences. So that's why you need to stay on top. If you're watching my video, I just did a really strong karate chop of like, that's why you need to do self-mastery. But it literally is so true. It is your companion to help you through these inevitably uncomfortable, icky parts of your journey of life, your journey of the human experience. So yeah. The second tip that I want to offer you for anyone that's feeling confused or feeling that you're in the void is to accept that you're in the void, and realize that the answers and the clarity and the opportunities, the invitations, whatever that little thing is that's going to move you out of the void is not going to come to you when you're in a space of rejecting the void. So this is kind of following on from the last episode I did, which was about accepting our current reality as a means to call in that positive change. It's the same when you're in a void, which, like I said, it's completely disorientating and confusing, but it doesn't mean that you need to be rejecting the fact that you're in the void. The energetic experience that you will create by rejecting the fact that you're in the void is like you're in quicksand. And if you're struggling and kicking and screaming because you're rejecting the fact that you're in quicksand, you're going to sink quicker. So another, like as I mentioned, the next tip for navigating the void is to just accept and soften into the fact that you're in a void. And using that first tip of like, oh, cool, okay, this is an encouraging sign. Things are going to change. New ideas will come to me. New opportunities, etc., are going to come to me. But until we soften and accept the fact that we are in a void and we are at like a pivotal point in our lives, we're not going to get that clarity that we're looking for. So we need to be using those tips of accepting that we're in a void and the fact that it's an encouraging sign, and wow, like I've got growing pains. It must be all that hard work that I'm doing, or it must be time for an upgrade in my life, you know? The third tip I have for navigating the void is, obviously following on from the second tip, is once we've accepted the fact that we're in a void or in a confusing time and there isn't, you know, that abundance of clarity and direction and support right now for the next phase, is to now, once we've accepted it, is to move into a space of relaxation and start having fun. Start relax, like check out, stop trying to figure everything out, you know? Once you've acknowledged that initial acknowledgement that like, holy fuck, I am in a void, is we've accepted it, like, cool, all right. But now we need to move into like, all right, I'm just going to lay back. I'm just going to chill. I'm just going to move into that lens of a lighthearted perception about this, of like understanding this is only temporary. This is for my greatest good. And I will get the answers that I'm looking for once I relax and once I have fun. So why relaxing and why having fun? Apart from the fact that they just are fucking awesome. You feel better when you do them. But the reason we feel better when we do this is because we are relaxing our nervous system. As I mentioned, you're not going to get the clarity that you want when you're in a space of confusion. And the best way to move into a space of receivership is to relax and to play and to check out and have fun and get into nature and just stop taking life so seriously. You're obviously already in a very dense, pivotal point in your life, so don't make it harder on yourself by moving into that dense inner space. So do everything you can on the outside to relax your nervous system and come into a very light space of receivership. And one of my favorite affirmations to say when I am feeling lost or when I'm ready to call in the next desires that I have in my awareness is relax to receive. We have to relax to receive the guidance that's coming our way, you know? So yeah, that's my third tip for navigating the void. My next tip for navigating the void is to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for any judgment that you've had, any unnecessary hardship in your inner or outer world you've put yourself through because you've come into the void. Because as I mentioned, until we're in that space of understanding that the void is actually an encouraging space and it's only temporary, you most likely have really started to go into unnecessary punishment, self-loathing, like really limiting beliefs, and just getting really stuck in this vicious loop in your inner world, which will start being reflected in your outer world. So it's like, don't double dose yourself with confusion, because one, you're already in a void, but two, you actually have you're a sovereign being and you have free will and discernment to decide how you want to navigate that void. And the best way to navigate that void is to soften and forgive yourself. Just take some deep breaths, laugh, smile, like look at yourself in the mirror, like, what the fuck is going on? You know what I mean? And just allow yourself that compassion and that forgiveness for whatever you are punishing yourself for. You know what I mean? Like, obviously I don't know the specifics of what's going on in your mind, but you might be there blaming yourself for the void that you're in. But once we understand tip one, that the void that you're in and the confusion that you're in is actually an encouraging sign, we can then invite ourselves to forgive, to love more, to express more compassion towards ourselves, and just fucking forgive yourself, okay? Like, we are just so hardwired in this society to be so fucking hard on ourselves. Sorry for the language, guys, but I just get so passionate about this. And it's like, stop beating yourself up. Fucking relax. Like, it's okay. So I hope receiving these tips are helping you just be like softening your shoulders, already relaxing your nervous system. Your mind and your body are accepting these truths and this information, because it's just going to help you move through this void and this confusion so much quicker. So yeah, I'm just going to turn the page because I have been writing some notes, because it's just that time of year. As I mentioned at the start of recording this episode, we are in December of 2022, and I felt called to record this podcast episode because this time of year really fosters a deeper feeling of confusion. And we have so much pressure from society to understand exactly what we're doing in 2023 and have a crystal clear plan, like as in the next year. So this doesn't just count for 2022, 2023, but it's always this time of year where everyone puts a fucking ridiculous load of pressure on themselves to understand what's happening in that next chapter of their life. But I want to pose to you the question, do you even have clarity on what you've done this year? Have you even taken the opportunity to celebrate every single little thing that you've achieved this year? And by achieving, it's not always a positive achievement, like, oh, I achieved that goal, or I got that upgrade, or I manifested my partner. Things you also need to celebrate is how well you navigated the rough times in your life and the curveballs and the sadder, more confusing times in your life. So as I mentioned, I've written some notes for this episode because I really just wanted it to be clear and to land. And obviously I'm coming to the end of the year as well, and I'm a human being. So I'm also trying to stay calm in the eye of the storm that is this end of year pressure to understand every single fucking thing that's gone on in our lives. So I've written some notes so that I didn't get lost, because I'm also experiencing a sense of confusion as well. So yeah, I've just turned the page. Let's have a look at the next tip that I've written down. Yes. Okay. So when you are in the void, it's about the micro steps. It's about the little habits. It's about the little decisions you make. I don't expect you to experience any huge quantum leaps or shifts when you're really in the thick of your void and your confusion. I'm not saying it's impossible, so I don't want you to rule that out, but it's more, in my experience, it's more sustainable for me to make all these little micro decisions within the void to help me slowly edge my way out. So everything in life has a polarity. It has a contrast. So there's light and dark. There's happiness and sadness. There's yin and yang, which is masculine and feminine. There's dark and light, if I didn't already mention that. So think of your confusion in the void as one end of the seesaw, of the polarity, and you're trying to work your way to the clarity end of it. So it's a seesaw. There's confusion on one end and clarity on the other end, and you've tipped all the way into confusion right now. But it just means that we need to, if you're watching my video, I'm like getting very into my hand movements right now, very, very animated about this. But it's about making those little micro decisions and steps to slowly start moving the weight from the confusion end of the seesaw, and slowly, as we make those steps and decisions and make those little changes and habits, the seesaw is inevitably going to tip back into the space of clarity. So that's by understanding the polarity and that's the energetics behind everything. You'll understand the value of micro habits and tiny little decisions and tiny little shifts in your perception every single day. Because like I said, quantum leaps and huge big shifts and like instant clarity is totally possible for you to come in your void, but you won't get those quantum leaps and those huge instant shifts until you start doing those tiny little micro steps every day. So don't undervalue those little habits and those little routines and those little, like I said, those little micro steps. So what could they be? Obviously in the void is quite confusing and disorientating, but one of the biggest pieces of advice, even though this whole episode is a big chunk of advice, but the biggest piece of advice that I can give you is to really not undervalue those micro steps, and just to realize that they all add up. And in each moment, it doesn't seem like they add up, because you're like, oh, I did my journaling practice this morning and like I didn't really feel that much better. Like I'm wrote a few things that I'm grateful for, but I'm still like super confused and I can hardly breathe. I'm so anxious. But I promise you, the energetics of all of those little micro habits, are adding up. So that's the biggest piece of advice that I can offer you in this time, is to stay as consistent as you can with any practice that feels good throughout this confusion, because I promise you it's slowly tipping that seesaw we're very heavily deep in the confusion right now, but every little step is going to inch you back into that clarity. And then you might have those big quantum leap moments, and that what would feel like an instant shift or instant clarity, but it's actually not instant, because you've been making all these little decisions and micro steps every single day to shift the momentum back into clarity. One of the biggest pieces of advice that I could give you throughout this time is to stay consistent as you can with whatever practice feels good. And this is where your sense of confidence and empowerment as a sovereign human being comes into play. And you, as I mentioned with self-mastery, we have an ecosystem of tools around us. It's not just about pigeonholing into, I just meditate every day. It's like, no, we are a multifaceted being with so much going on all the time. You need to dive into your huge ecosystem of self-mastery habits and identify the ones that are making you feel even the slightest bit better throughout this confusing time. So that might be, as I mentioned, like resting. Just have a nap. Like, honestly, sometimes I will, pack up all my stuff and take my journal, my cards and all of this stuff to like kind of shift and move through space, or just, obviously practice self-mastery every day. And I might set up somewhere to have a little session in nature by the beach or something like that. And sometimes I end up just having a nap. And then I wake up and I have so much clarity around everything after having that nap. So as I mentioned, one of the things you could be doing in this time is rest. So have a nap, play. As I mentioned, get out, just relax your nervous system, move some energy, shift some energy through your body. It could be getting into nature, which is just, insanely good for you. Obviously, I've spoken about this time and time again. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but if you're feeling confused, get off technology, get off social media, get off your emails and everything, get outside into nature. Literally lying on the ground just feels really nice. You know what I mean? And other practices, obviously, some that are more, have a bit more structure to them, like journaling. And that doesn't need to be like, oh, but I don't know what to journal about. Open a blank page and just start writing, and you'll be really, really amazed what actually comes through. As I mentioned, if meditating is good for you, do that. What else can you do? Lean on some friends, lean on your trusted community, whether that's co-workers, parents, family, friends, your pets. Again, nature, go out and just have a chat to nature. Just like sit there and just be like, oh my God, I'm really fucking in it right now. What do I do, sort of thing. And obviously nature can't speak directly back to us, but sometimes the answers and the clarity that we're looking for come through us just soundboarding out to ourselves. So yeah, lean on your trusted circle, whoever that is. And just because other people around you may be thriving, maybe in a space of clarity, maybe in a space of instantly manifesting the things that they want because they're in a particular phase in their life where that they're in that alignment with that. Our minds usually go into that space of unhealthy comparison, like, oh, well, everyone around me gets the house and the job and the partner and I can't get anywhere. Don't just forgive yourself for that unhealthy comparison, and realize that just because other people around you aren't in this particular void, this quicksand pivotal point of our lives, does not mean you have to do it alone. They have excess energy and capacity and space to hold for you in that time. So make sure we're reaching out to our trusted community, and obviously asking for consent before that. Don't just jump into your friends' DMs and inboxes and just be like, oh my God, it's another shitty day. Ask for consent. Like, hey, I know you're having a really busy day at work, but if you've got any time or capacity to hold space for me, I just need to soundboard with you. Or before you send that 5-minute voice message moaning about what's going on in your life, just be like, hey, just letting you know, or maybe send it, like, if you need to. Like, sometimes I'll send friends voice messages and then I start crying as I'm speaking about things, and then I'm like, oh, sorry, like and then I'll send them a text afterwards like, oh, just a disclaimer, this is a bit of an emotional dump, didn't expect it to be, but listen when you have the space. So leaning on your trusted community, but also asking for consent from them, because they, if you have a beautiful, loving, conscious community around you, then they should be more than willing and happy to share that more of that high vibration with you as you are in that space of kind of having to more consciously move into it. So just because people around you aren't in a void or feeling lost too, doesn't mean that you have to do your experience of this current void by yourself. So just remembering that. Okay, I've sort of just touched on this next tip, but your mind and your body will always choose safety over the unknown, over fear. So if you are in the void already feeling stressed out, your mind and your body are never going to be in a space of receivership to receive, obviously, that next bit of guidance, that next idea, that next invitation. So that's why I'm mentioning all these practices you need to come back into of rest and play and support and staying really true to your self-mastery practices, because your mind and your body will always choose safety over fear. And you might be like, oh, well, I don't feel that much fear. But when you're in these voids, on the other side of the void is going to be change. And your mind and your body initially reject change because it elicits an experience of fear. Because, as I mentioned, our minds are just here to help us feel safe. And the way that our mind feels safe is by focusing on the known. Even if the known doesn't serve our highest good anymore, it's just a broken record. It just tries to keep us safe all the time. So that clarity and change that you're looking for will not come into your awareness while you're in this void if you're not taking the time to help your mind and your body feel safe. It will always choose safety over fear. So when you are in this state trying to push through and get all these ideas and push out of the void, your mind and your body and your nervous system are just like, no, this is not happening. And they're digging their heels in because they're like, no, we're keeping you safe. And this spirit experience of the unknown it doesn't fit into our system of the known. So it's not working for us. So you will never, ever get into a state of receiving that guidance if you're not allowing your mind and your body to feel safe. So it's not about avoiding change for the rest of your life, obviously, but we need to allow our mind and our body and our nervous system time to accept the fact that change is coming in. So check in with yourself. If you're stuck in a void and confused and kicking and screaming about not having the clarity that you want, I was like, but do you feel safe in your body right now? Do you feel safe in this void? Do you feel safe in the confusion because you understand that it's just temporary? And if you can't answer these questions with clarity, then the first thing you need to do while you're experiencing this confusion is come back to making yourself feel safe and regulating your nervous system and giving your mind and your body time to accept the fact that change is coming and expansion is coming. Because as much as there's always juicy nuggets of fulfillment and excitement and joy and inspiration on the other side of expansion, it's not the most comfortable experience. So we need to be consciously moving ourselves to the edge of our comfort zone. But it's not about doing that in a forceful way that's, I'm trying to find another word for quick, but we can't do that quickly. We need to to sustainably move through this evolution that you're experiencing, we need to softly and sustainably move to the edge of our comfort zone. And that includes helping our mind and our body feel safe. So I've already kind of answered how we help our mind and body feel safe, but that is by taking the time to help our mind and our body accept that there's an evolution coming and there's change coming. So that's up to you how you figure out how to help your body feel safe. But some really great affirmations will help you do that, because obviously your mind is already feeling disorganized. So just having some loving affirmations to come back to, because otherwise your mind's completely out of control and it's becoming your foe rather than your friend. So coming back to some affirmations, some deep breaths, something like, I am safe to move through this evolution. I am safe to feel my feelings. I am safe to experience new opportunities. And, obviously I am safe. Just keep that as like, if that feels good for you, keep that as like your standard part of the affirmation, and then fill in the rest of it with the specific thing that your mind is kind of running away with all the time. Like, I am safe and I am worthy, or as I mentioned before, I relax to receive. And just really being kind to yourself throughout this void and this feeling of confusion, and just understanding that your mind and your body will need some time to accept the evolution and the change that's coming along. So you will get that clarity once you help your body feel safe, because it will always choose safety over fear, and the unknown brings fear. So as I mentioned, it's not about not experiencing change, but we just need to support ourselves through that evolution and that change. Okay, let's see what else I've written here. And the last point was reaching out for support, which I kind of paired in with the habits part of it. But yeah, I'll leave that there, guys, because it's a busy time of year, and a short episode will hopefully land for you because we've all got a lot on our plates. But just remember to forgive yourself throughout this time. Be really soft, be really calm as you can be. And if you are experiencing confusion because of this particular chronological time of year of, it's the end of the year and everyone's like already putting heaps of pressure on you to know what your New Year's resolutions are and exactly what you're doing for every single minute of the next year, block that out. Give yourself some space and compassion to just fully absorb and celebrate what you've already achieved this year. And then I promise you, once you're feeling relaxed and calm and you've moved to that higher vibration, all of that clarity and inspiration and opportunities will land in your lap. I promise you. So best of luck, guys. If you are having any specific experiences with this void that you feel that I could help you with, I'm always here to help you move through the deeper, more personalized sides of it. So just reach out to me on Instagram, or I've got an email address too if it needs to be a bit longer, a bit more formal. My contact details are always left in the notes of the show. So I pop these videos on YouTube, and then I have my podcast episodes on Apple Podcast, Anchor, and Spotify. So whichever platform you're watching on, just go to the bottom of whether this is the audio or the video version, and you can reach out to me and contact me. As I mentioned, I'm also kind of in a bit of a void at the moment, but I'm having fun with it. So I just wanted to mention that I was in the void because I'm still trying to gain some clarity on the most aligned way to offer a deeper sense of support for all of my clients through Oasis State. So hopefully the next time I jump onto an episode, I'll have a bit more clarity about my new offerings for 2023. But for now, I'm taking my own advice and my own tips from this episode, and I'm just relaxing, I'm accepting, and I'm just having some fun. So do this. I hope you guys can do the same for yourselves soon, and I'll catch you on the next episode of the Oasis State Podcast. Oh my God, podcast. I'm done, guys. See ya. Mwah.